Hello, and welcome to the special holiday edition of ConTinual, the never-ending convention. My name is Jean Marie Ward. I'll be your host for today's program on holiday comfort food. Throughout history and into the futures foreseen in speculative fiction, our festivals are defined by food. The word itself derives from feast, but this program isn't just about holiday food. It's about holiday food that makes us feel good, that gives us joy, and tells us that everything is going to be okay. Here to talk about this key element of every true celebration are four wonderful cooks and first-rate storytellers: Jaym Gates, Laura Anne Gilman, Nettles, and Nikki Woolfolk. Before we get down to the, I can't resist, meat of this panel, I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves, starting with Jaym. Jaym?
Hi, I'm Jaym Gates. I'm an editor, game designer, author, person who has a habit of saying, that sounds interesting, and learning new skill sets on the fly, as Laura Ann can attest. I also really enjoy feeding people, so that's kind of why I got involved with this panel. And it's something that I've enjoyed doing for quite a while and hope to keep doing for a long time in the future.
Okay, great. Laura Ann?
My name is Laura Anne Gilman, writer, editor, tired person, as the header on my website says, and currently puppy trainer, yes. And definitely a foodie, have been for as long as I can remember, from a family of foodies. So yeah, I was never going to be one of those people who said, oh, I'm not really hungry, I don't really care where we eat. I have an opinion.
I hear you. Jim?
Jim Nettles. I write science fiction, urban fantasy, a bit of horror, a bit of this, that, and the other, some techno thriller. Also write nonfiction, articles, privacy, security, all sorts of fun stuff. Do a lot of consulting. And I cook, because, this is not all beer.
It's scotch, too.
There's scotch, too. I mean, and clients have paid a lot of money for this over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I also like to cook. I am actually a KSBC certified judge. What
does that mean?
Kansas City Barbecue Society. I'm actually certified to go to competitions and judge. And they're wrong in their cooking style.
I didn't know that was a thing.
If you see it, yeah, there's two different organizations. Do you see any of the barbecue shows? It's either KSBC and I always forget what the other one is.
Okay, now Jim, I have to ask, was it you who introduced me to the most amazing barbecue when the Nebulas was at Kansas City? I know
no, it wasn't.
Took a group of us off to this amazing lamb barbecue place.
I've been there. It's been a while, but no, it wasn't me. I wasn't there. But yeah, there is some
taking the credit because it's still one of my favorite food memories.
Okay, yeah, it was all me. 100% me.
Well, we're going to get to another favorite food memory in just a minute. Nikki, please introduce yourself and tell the world about your chocolate.
My name is Nikki Woolfolk. I write mysteries, usually cozy or murder mysteries, and they're usually food-centric. Whether I write romance or anything else under the sun, also nonfiction, I'm always writing about food. I didn't really get started into cooking until about, my son's 14, so about 13 years ago, because I realized one of us needed to learn how to cook because one of us didn't know how. So I lost the bet. My short human, he got to sit there and relax. But I didn't really get into food, as far as cooking or anything like that, until just recently, at least for me. So yeah, this will be interesting to also talk about holidays, because I'm more of didn't really celebrate holidays too much as a kid. And then as I got older, not really having a lot of friends. And then I purposely kept moving. So then when I end up having friends, it's like, oh, you all do the holiday thing? That's really bizarre. How do you all do this? So I kind of feel like an alien, but it's been fun just going to people's houses. It's like trick or treat, but with food. So it's like, ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? So it's great.
And you make chocolate.
Yes, and I make chocolate. Forgot about that.
Yes. That's the most important thing. Yes,
Yes.
writing's good, but chocolate's better. Okay, this is actually a very good lead into the first thing I want to get into is, you've traveled around a lot. Holidays were not a big thing, but now, you had a short human, now you got a family. What food, if there is one or more, defines Thanksgiving and the winter holiday season, all the wonderful things that happen throughout December and into January for you? What food is it that does that? Is it chocolate?
Two things. I don't get to make what I like very much for the holidays. I'm now in New England, which I'm not originally from, so this has been interesting. I've been out on the East Coast for 20 years. I've lived in New England for about 11, and it feels like fish out of water because I'm from California. So this is all interesting, like seeing almost like television type holiday situations.
With snow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have snow in parts of California, but like, it's weird here. So the neutral thing that doesn't get me into any sort of fights is hot cocoa. But I always end up making it myself, and I make fresh marshmallows depending on what my mood is. So it's like, do you want vanilla marshmallows? Do you want blueberry marshmallows? Do you want orange marshmallows with spice? So all these different things. I'll end up making Mexican hot chocolate, or I'll do a hot chocolate in a slow cooker. Mm-hmm. So for me, hot chocolate is more of, starting of that holidays. Apple cider is what I usually have during the fall. Wintertime, I end up doing, homemade hot cocoa. So my family is spoiled. My son didn't know that you don't get handmade marshmallows when you have hot cocoa. So yeah, I kind of spoiled him. He had no idea. It's all the good stuff. But usually during December time, if I'm left alone to do whatever I'd like, I really love making seafood gumbo because everything is just right during that time frame. I've got family from the South. So I don't go by a recipe. I literally go by the sense of smell. So things have to smell a certain way before I add other things or let them cook a certain amount. So yeah.
Spaghetti sauce is red sauce is like that for me. Jim, what says holidays to you, food-wise?
For me, so when I was growing up, we had all the, Thanksgiving especially was the big holiday, because we got all the cousins, family, everybody pulled together, and it was like 50 people. So it was always a fairly large cooking event, but Dad cooked most of the turkeys and stuff like that. And so then as I got older and everything else, I sort of adopted a lot of that. So for probably the last 10 or 15 years at least, about this time of year, I start getting the phone calls going, "Hey, so are you cooking?" And so, I mean, probably the heaviest year, because I will start cooking for Thanksgiving on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And most of it is not for us, because I've cooked as much as I think I topped out at smoking 15 turkeys, frying 12, smoking 14 hams, and doing half a hog.
And
out of all of that,
sorry.
one ham, one fried turkey, one smoked turkey, and a little bit of barbecue was for us, and everything else went to other people. Mm-hmm. So, and because trying to make sure it's all actually hot on Thanksgiving is this really weird all-night move of shuffling it between different cookers at different stages to get different things and effects and all the rest of this. And so, yeah, that kind of for me for the last number of years has been the big kickoff. But the funny one was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, we had gotten in the habit where my wife's family all would come to us for Thanksgiving, and then her great aunt died, and this is who her grandmother was living with, died like the week before Thanksgiving. So her mother was like, "Yeah, I think we're just going to stay here." And I'm looking at her going, "I've cooked all of this. Why don't we carry it down there? It's a 2-hour trip." She looked at me like, "Oh, that would mean I'd still have to see my family for things." Yes, we have all of this food. So what are we going to do? I'll call and see if they want us to do that. So we haul all this stuff down there. And the funniest part was this. I had taken and done the old fashioned, I'd done a sweet potato puree that was then in the orange shells, because for the hams, I make this fresh orange and pineapple sauce that goes with the ham. So I had taken and hollowed out the orange shells, filled it with sweet potato puree, done this whole little thing with it. And her grandmother was fascinated by this. But the best line was she looked at my wife and said, "So what do you do?"
So basically the whole feast is the whole Thanksgiving feast is your holidays. That's the holiday imprint on your mind.
Let me go cook, because I
Yes.
love to cook.
Mhm. And Jaym, what says holidays for you?
So for me, my family has either really great cooks or really bad cooks. My mom is a really good cook. My grandmother is an awful cook. Unfortunately, she kind of has a really awful palate too. So I grew up with really, really white person
Mm-hmm.
holiday food. But the area I grew up in is near a place called Apple Hill, it used to just be like a big apple orchard, and it's turned into a pretty tourist heavy area. But they make the best apple cider donuts every year.
Ooh.
And I mean, like, they have wonderful big chunks of apple in them. They're spicy. If you get them fresh, they've got little crispy bits on them. So that for me has always been the holidays. And I'm so annoyed this year because I'm not going to get any. And so, of course, like, I've just been craving it constantly for the last 2 months. But yeah, those are the holidays for me usually.
Oh, that sounds wonderful and hot. Yeah.
Yep.
Laura Ann, what food says holidays to you?
Well, now I want cider donuts.
Uh-huh.
In my family, Thanksgiving is the holiday. The joke was always, you either have to be out of the country or dead. And if you're dead, you better get a note from the undertaker. You did not miss it. So it's been tough for me because I missed it last year because I was having surgery for a tumor, and obviously going to miss it this year. My parents, my mother's sisters, all the family, anywhere from 30 to 50 of us, depending on who's bringing guests and lost puppies and whatnot. So it's a big deal. It's a major thing. It moves from cousins to cousin's house so that nobody has to host it continually. So the host cooks the turkey and everybody else brings everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing this since before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
My family's been doing this. And for me, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't really like turkey." I love turkey because my family knows how to cook it.
It's a skill.
So good, and you just devour it. And then there's the leftovers, and you get turkey salad and turkey sandwiches. Turkey for me is holiday food.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. And anybody who doesn't, I'm like, fine, I'll eat yours. Unless your family doesn't know how to cook turkey, in which case you get to keep it. But you also have to remember that you're talking to the person who convinced a New York publisher to let her write a trilogy about wine.
Mm-hmm.
And the magic of wine. And very much for me and my family, whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's New Year's, whatever, Super Bowl, it's a holiday.
Yeah, it is. I'd say
wine
that.
is how we gather.
Mm-hmm.
I always joke, Judaism is a religion that has a specific prayer, thanking God for giving us wine. Because that is very much the social thing of you open a bottle, you pour it into a glass, and a conversation happens.
Mm-hmm.
And cousins you haven't seen for a while, you sit there and you talk about the wine, or you talk about anything else, but it's over this glass of wine. And for me, the bottle and the pouring and the sharing of wine is holidays. I mean, it's every other day too, but that particular bringing out the bottle that you've been saving is holidays to me.
It's certainly celebration. I know that my parents got a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, the special reserve one, whose name escapes me now because I haven't looked at it. for their 50th wedding anniversary. And of course, it was too good to drink. So that bottle was still there when my mother died in 2008. And I couldn't drink it because I didn't have the occasion for it. And I remember waiting until a friend's daughter got her first book contract and having a small party for her and her friends and opening that wine. And it was the essence of celebration, that particular, and it tasted great, man. It was just fabulous.
Some wines
Okay.
are aged and some aren't, but yeah.
Yeah, no, this is the Grand Reserve, the one that does age for 25 years. And we got it just before it would have turned too soft. But anyway, is wine the comfort food, or is that something
Turkey
else?
is the comfort food.
Turkey is the comfort food.
Turkey is the comfort food. Wine is the, I guess wine in a way is a comfort food, but I think it's more the actions around wine that is the comfort rather than the actual drinking of it. I mean, obviously the wine is important and it tastes good, but it's the bringing out the bottle and saying, this is what I brought, because everybody brings wine.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell the story about where you found it
Mm-hmm.
and what you've cooked with it, and everybody has an opinion about it. And it's the comfort is not so much in the drinking as the sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and turkey, though, is the food of comfort. And
I love turkey.
Yeah.
Turkey and cranberry sauce, and it has to be in cans with the ridges. I make no apologies. My sister made real wonderful cranberry sauce once, and I'm like, this is great, but yeah, no, I'd rather have it from the can.
I agree.
oh,
Cranberry sauce should come in a can.
It has
and
ridges. It has to have ridges.
Yeah, you have to have the.
Yes.
You got to slice it.
Man, that sound effect is on
and
point.
watch it quiver, huh? No, don't knife me! Don't knife me! Oh dear! Oh dear! Oh dear!
I agree.
Watch it wiggle. Oh, wait. Wrong.
Now I'm going to be doing the can sound forever.
Yes. Jim, so what is the comfort food for you, the holiday comfort food?
Well, again, I love turkey. For me, is one of those things. Now, I will cook them a couple of times throughout the year as well. But I mean, with the amount of turkey I cook between about mid-November and January, I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it as long as it's cooked well.
Mm-hmm.
But and outside of something major like that, it's I don't do a whole lot of sweet stuff through the year, but it's the pecan pie that comes out right then, fresh homemade stuff. I mean, I will, while the wife does more baking than I do, I will cook. Again, we're back to that whole thing of around that Thanksgiving period is buttermilk pies, sweet potato pies from scratch. I do pumpkin pies because everybody else likes them. I don't. I will do pecan pies. I will do a key lime pie. I mean, like I said, I will have this whole spread. And she'll look at me and go, exactly what army is coming? And I'm like,
But pie stays good for a long time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't November the season of pecans when they drop from the trees? Because we had one in our yard in San Antonio, and as I seem to recall, it was November that those nuts
and it's a huge harvest of them this year. So I'm kind of already doing a little happy dance.
Oh, yeah, great. So, Nikki, are the marshmallows your comfort food, or is there something else that's a comfort food? The gumbo? Would you say it's the gumbo?
For me, the gumbo, my grandmother never really made it for me because it wasn't the right time every time I come to visit. It was usually during the summer. But there was this recipe that was always passed down, and it was typed. So it was like that type of recipe. And by the time it got to me, it was all worn. It had been folded. And so I made a photocopy, and it's like secretly, it's always in the house somewhere secret. But it got to the point, I remember the second time I made it from scratch, I didn't follow the recipe. And I realized I didn't have to. So now it's just kind of there symbolically. And that's what I have. But usually with the holidays, I have in-laws and they have, you know, they're from New England and they do the thing. And I'm just like, okay, you know, it's not bad. It's just, it's the same exact thing. And I'm like, this is really bizarre. I'm from California. We do the hippie stuff. We do the spa stuff. But then at the same time, having a mother from the Midwest, a father from Louisiana, having that mixture, it was very interesting. So not realizing that part of my comfort food is, you know, a little bit of from the father's side, with my mom's comfort food, like as far as, you know, as Jaym was saying, as, you know, that's why I got the can sound down so well with the cranberry sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one year my mother made, she made cranberry sauce from scratch. And we all just sat at the table like, what the hell is this? Like, this is not cranberry sauce. She's like, it's fresh. And I'm like, this is bizarre. So that thing went untouched. And it's like, no, you know, it was great. She did a wonderful job. But it was like, cranberry sauce comes from a can. And then I moved
standards here.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you, when you said, this is not cranberry sauce, I heard that sung by the Talking Heads.
Exactly. And then I moved out to New England, you know, a while ago, and they're all about their cranberries, but they all agree it should come from a can. And I'm like, really? Like, I feel so happy about that. But at the same time, it's kind of blasphemy, you know, for people in New England, because they, you know, they have lobster rolls and those are comfort foods for people. And my husband loves fluffernutter sandwiches. What the heck is that? What is that?
I'm from the South. What the hell's a fluffernutter?
I was like, is it dirty? Because it sounds dirty.
It's not dirty, but it is disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So he and my son, they make these sandwiches and it's got
Marshmallow fluff.
Marshmallow fluff and peanut butter. And
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
It
That
could
is
be
dirty.
worse.
That's wrong. That's just
It's
wrong.
weird. It is so weird.
Better than, you know, bananas or something, but only barely.
I don't
Look.
understand it. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to leave it alone. But also, you know, you're talking to a person that eats pork rinds.
Look,
I tried
there are
them for the
people in my
first time this year, and I do not understand it. You Gentiles are weird.
there are people in my family who eat pickle and peanut butter sandwiches. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, this is something Laura's going to like. My son is half Jewish. So it's like, and he'll be chewing on bacon. And he's like, this is great. I'm like,
all right,
I'm like, don't tell.
Here's a true story. True story. My family's from New England. So I feel your pain about the whole lobster roll thing.
It's so weird.
I'm allergic to lobster, so it's really bizarre. They thought I was adopted. But my parents always said that if you're a Southern Jew, pork is kosher. And if you're a New England Jew, lobster is kosher, because the first rule is survive. And this is a primary food.
Mm-hmm.
So you get one exemption.
Yeah.
So my exemption has always been bacon. However, I don't eat ham, because ham is what Gentiles eat.
Exactly.
Bacon, yes. Pork chops, yes. Ham, no. Unless I'm out of the country, because they know how to do ham.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Food is weird. Okay, the rules we make around food are weird.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And the foods that we love are kind of weird. Look at fluffernutters. I don't love them. I go, oh God, no, just don't, keep it away from me. Anyway, Jaym. Yeah, so the look you gave when I called your name, yes, it's horrible. I'm sorry, but you are going to have to answer this. What is the holiday comfort food for you? Is it the same as your vision of the holiday, or is it something completely different?
So the weird thing for me is that I don't really have, like, I have some comfort foods, but they're not holiday associated. So for me, I get more comfort out of cooking food than I do out of eating it. And I think part of that is because growing up with my grandmother's horrific food, my learning to cook was an act of love for for the people who ate in my household. I'm not even joking about that.
I believe you. We talked about my mother's cooking earlier. So yes, I do
Yeah.
believe you.
Yeah, I learned to cook very early to protect all of us. But for me, it's more about cooking. And so one of the things that I I kind of have to, just sort of lean into is that I don't really have a food tradition because we did have such basic food. Like my grandparents absolutely loved fruit salad that is canned fruit and way overripe bananas with Cool Whip. Like that is the level of just no.
Wait, ambrosia salads?
Pretty much. Yeah, like my grandmother's family came from the South, and so there's that, but then my grandfather's family kind of came through the Midwest, so we have a really weird amalgamation of Southern and Midwestern, but it's like the worst of all of it. And then I came along and I'm like, oh God, no. And I learned to cook real food, which I was really lucky because I did grow up in California. And so we had a lot of Mexican influence. And then my mom's best friend was Indian. So like for me, curry is more of a comfort food than even, what I grew up with. But what I really love doing is cooking things that are people's comfort food. I have a friend that for a few years now, they've been bringing me down to Portland to do Thanksgiving for them. It started a few years ago when I was going through a really bad situation. They're like, why don't you come up for Thanksgiving, get out of, your situation for a little while. And she had just had a surgery on her nose, I think to fix a deviated septum or something. So she obviously was not up for cooking a Thanksgiving meal. And it was an orphan's Thanksgiving, so it was all sorts of these different dietary needs. And so I couldn't I had to go with a non-dairy, sugar-free, gluten-free, and then there were a couple of other like specific things I had to watch out for as well. And also no nightshades. So no potatoes, no tomatoes. So
No peppers.
Yeah. So I had to really kind of just think outside my comfort zone. I came up with this dish that was a local sausage with caramelized onions and mushrooms and then sliced sauteed apples. And you fry it all together and the sausage makes this amazing sauce for the apples. And it just became one of the things that my friend craves every year. I don't eat it. I don't eat pork. And he's just like, I must have this. He'll leave the turkey and just eat the sausage and apples. So that for me is more like what makes me happy than actually eating something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's the act of cooking and sharing that love in the cooking. Yeah.
Yes. I am a grandmother of some, I have no idea what, background at this point, but I am kind of just like this, I'm genetically grandmother, I think. I will feed you.
Yeah, it's amazing how how much that is also wrapped into the love, because my mother couldn't cook. My mother's parents could, but everybody expressed love by saying, "Let me feed you. Let me make sure you're not hungry."
Yeah.
And in the case of my grandparent, well, I never knew my granddad, but my grandma. Yeah, that was really comfort. But in the case of my mom, no, please. No, just don't, no.
See, the best part is that at least my grandmother has realized that she doesn't like cooking. She's not good at it. So she does the dishes because the person who cooks also doesn't have to do the dishes.
That works, yeah.
I will cook anything in the world. I just don't want to do dishes.
Yep.
Somebody else should clean that, please.
I will cook for 300 in a heartbeat. Now, granted, the cleaning crew that it takes behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as to your point, Jim, we have stories in my family of my grandmother attempting and sometimes succeeding in feeding everybody, whether they were hungry or not.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, food is love, but cooking food is especially love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't mind the dishes that much, but that's Dad somehow always got stuck with the dishes, and I don't know. It got to be sort of a routine. There's a way of organizing dishes that I don't care how big the party is, I can have them done in 20 minutes.
All right, so we're all bringing you
You're going to have to
to
feed
our
me,
holiday
though.
meals now. I'm good with that. We'll just
I'm
fight
good
over
with
for
that
the
too.
Feed me
holidays.
first.
All
All
I'm
right.
going to say is that there is an arcane art to loading a dishwasher, and some people have it, and some people just cannot learn.
This wasn't
And
before
yes, Dad, I'm
dishwashers.
looking at you still.
Yeah. This is before dishwashers. This is in the Army when you brought out the good china for a cocktail party and the
Oof.
crystal.
I can
So
tell you for a fact that you can actually put the most good china in a dishwasher. I've been doing it for 10 years now.
most good china now, but this was like 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, and you had gold leaf on the edges that could never go in the dishwasher. And in fact, most of those Army housing did not have dishwashers, so, except my dad. He was excellent at the job. We've talked about cooking as love, and I want to get back to that. But I also want to talk about some of the beverages. We had Lorianne talked about wine. Nikki talked about hot chocolate. James, is there any, how important is beverage to the sense of feast and community that you create in your cooking? It can be alcoholic, it can be non-alcoholic. I'm just asking about that side of it.
Not super important. I grew up without really much in the way of beverage. Like no alcohol, no coffee, no caffeinated anything was allowed growing up. The perks of growing up super religious. So for me, that there wasn't that much. And then, I like cider, but my grandfather is slightly allergic to apples and he has diabetes. So cider for him wasn't really a thing. So growing up, drinks, not that much. What I really like doing now is kind of experimenting. So usually I'll make up a couple of cocktails. I make some really good eggnog that's served warm because I cannot do the cold raw eggnog. That's not happening. But it's not super important for me. I think what I like more is starting the meal with some form of soup. So my partner, we have it we do an orphan's Thanksgiving here, and my partner makes this just giant vat of really, really tasty soup. And so that starts things out. And then sometimes I'll do like a butternut squash soup or something like that. And I feel like soup is kind of like this warm hug. Mm-hmm. And that kind of starts off the meal.
That's beautiful. And soups are, it's cold and wet and Seattle weather here in the Washington D.C. area today.
It's just cold here.
Yeah, all I could think of was, man, I was actually thinking of gumbo, Nikki. Yeah, or hot lentil soup,
Oh,
or
I love lentil soup.
Yeah.
I made chili today.
Yeah, I heard, and that too would have been just so perfect. Anyway, Jim, what about, are there beverages that you associate with the holidays, and how important are they to the feast, to the festivities?
Well, there's always wine. Mm-hmm. Then there's always, now I learned to drink wine. I have an appreciation for it. But there's always wine, there's always beer, but there's Dad, and it's been a while since he's made it, but was, is famous for throwing together one of the old punches from the 70s, it was 7-Up or Sprite and a couple of different things, and you threw in some sherbet and all this other stuff. And I remember that from being a kid. Well, then there was Dad always made 2 batches, one of which was the leaded, one of which was the unleaded. And there was the time that my 2 little great aunts got into the leaded version because I think Dad only brought 1 batch. And the 2 little total little ladies that were both retired school teachers did not understand why they felt so good and were having such a good time. And but it's still the same thing. It's always bring out the wine, pop a drink, sit there, have all the good, have all the fun stuff going. But I'll go and, if we're throwing a party or something, I'll start making different kinds of mulled wine or different spice ciders. It's always fun to play with the drinks because, again, food and drinks, that's part of the whole social thing. And as part of my misspent youth, I was a bartender. So I love to go concoct new fun things to go play with. And so, yeah, there's always drinks. And that's Yeah, you got to pop a beer to cook. I mean, you can't cook without a beer, right? It's mechanically impossible.
I can
It's
cook
like,
without beer because I don't like beer.
or wine.
You
You
gotta
can cook.
cook with
Cider.
something in your hand, and it can't
Yes.
be a cigarette because that ruins the taste. So it might as well be a glass of something.
It might as
Right,
well
you
be a
should do
glass of
birch
something
beer.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do birch beer. I had no idea what that was until I moved to New England.
Hmm.
Absolutely is one of my favorite things, and I don't drink soda. But if I'm making gumbo,
Birch beer and
I don't drink-
sarsaparilla.
yeah, I don't drink alcohol, but there'll be a birch beer in my
Ginger
hand
beer
from
for
Hosmer
me.
Mountain. So yeah.
If I'm doing non-alcoholic ginger beer,
Oh, good
If
stuff.
you,
That
if you
stuff's
had
so good.
Blenheims, if you had the Blenheims extra spicy,
That's good.
if you get the hottest version of Blenheims, I mean, you can run a car off of that stuff, but it's good.
It's kind
Gotta
of like
look
chewing
that
on
up.
a fresh ginger root, except hotter. I'm not sure how they manage that, but
Yeah,
Oh my
But it
I
goes
goodness.
need
really
my
well with
inhaler. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll need my inhaler. Every time I have too much ginger, I love ginger, but at a certain point, too much air comes through, and then I'm like, I need my inhaler. There's too much
I
air.
make-
People are like, too much air.
during the holidays, I make a triple ginger cookie that I made it for a Kickstarter bonus once, and ever since people have been like, "Are you making those cookies again?"
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Now, if I can make those cookies and have a dark and stormy with it,
Mm.
I might overload then. But ginger is wonderful, especially in colder weather.
you can never have too much ginger.
I love ginger.
It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful spice.
I
I
love
love it in
ginger.
Thai food.
Oh yeah.
I don't love dry ginger. I love fresh. I love
Mhm.
candied. I hate dry ginger for some reason.
It's old for the most part, and
Mm.
it's got a little bitterness to it.
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
sharp
makes it
without
right,
being
yeah.
flavorful.
Hmm. Yeah, it's got more heat than it has flavor. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I love
Okay.
making Meyer lemon and ginger sorbet. That's one of my
Ooh.
favorites.
That sounds wonderful.
But it's the heat though that really, especially in this area where you've got the dark and you've got the cold. When you've got a spice that has that warmth and that bite to it,
Yeah.
whether it's in a cookie, whether it's in a curry, it's comforting.
Mhm.
It's warming. There's a reason why you see ginger used a lot in winter holidays.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Ginger is-
cinnamon.
Yep. For the same reason. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about the holidays. This holiday season is going to be like none other. None other in our lifetime, certainly.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, to date, let us just say we have like none other in our lives to date. Hopefully it's the only time it will be like this. How are you adapting the foods that you love and the drinks that you love and these things that make you feel good and say holiday to you? How are you adapting it to a very different kind of festive season? So, Nikki, would you want to talk to that?
Sure. I don't really have immediate family. Like I have one or two, like a cousin and an uncle, several hours away. So pretty much when James says orphan, holidays, that's pretty much me. And I try to see if I can, get together with friends. But usually in the past, it was with my husband's family, and it's always the same type of meals each time. And like you said, they're good, they're tasty. But this year, because of what's going on, for the first time, we get to make whatever we want. My sweetie got, somebody passed down a smoker to him for like $20. It's worth more than $20. So Jim knows what I'm talking
so
about.
envious right now.
Yeah, we were just like over the moon. And then I saw how happy he was with the smoker because he's like, I don't cook. And then we smoke all the things. Like, just throw that in there. So I was like, what happens if we did like full on Renaissance fair with like a smoked turkey leg, like just that? And he's like, oh. So I'm like, well, maybe we should make gumbo. He's like, no, do that in December. So we've
If
decided.
he needs recipes, tell him to call me.
Exactly. So yes, we probably will. And that was one of the things where it's like, well, yeah, now we get to do a holiday the way that we're kind of curious about. And we're like, okay, what will it look like? I don't know, but it's going to be fun. And there's cranberry from the can. There's smoked turkey. And knowing me, because I'm so homesick for parts of California that I keep talking about lumpia. And he's looking at me like, what the hell is lumpia? I'm like, where are your Filipino people at? I swear to all that's holy. Like, I miss my food. So it's either I'll make something that's, a Filipino cuisine. I'll make something that's either Japanese or something that's Thai, because that reminds me of home. I know that sounds really bizarre, but that's what reminds me of home. So
as a Californian, totally get it.
Yeah, so you get it. And when I make things now, the entire family jumps in. So with my son, he knows how to make omelets, and he makes his own weird omelets, but he's like, would you like it weird or unweird? I'm like, no pickles for me, but thanks. So, and like last year, my husband made me a meal for Christmas. I mean, we're Buddhists, so Christmas is not our holiday, but it's a day off. It's nice. And I remember him like being so proud of himself, as he should have been, because that was really cool, because he's not really much of a cook. And he says he's not a cook, but he's good. And I remember him telling his stepfather, and his stepfather's like so, mindset way in the past. He's like, what do you mean you cooked a meal? What did your wife do? I'm like, I ate it. What else you gonna do?
Good answer.
Yeah, and he was like, I made the food. He's like, well, doesn't she cook? And I'm like literally sitting right there. So I was like, listen up, old man. So my husband's like, no, I got this. And like, it became like this verbal smackdown respectfully. And after that, now my husband like jumps in, likes to try to learn things, cook. I got him an air fryer. I got him an Instant Pot. That was his
This is a
birthday
good
present.
thing.
Yeah. And so he's loving it. And today is his birthday, and I didn't buy him anything, but he's like, you got me the air fryer that I always wanted. So I'm like,
Oh, be still my heart. That's wonderful.
yeah. So now the comfort foods, we're discovering what our comfort foods are. And was it, I think you had asked earlier, I made my husband, I made him matzo ball soup years and years ago. And he's like, what's this? And I'm like, Jewish chicken soup. Just eat it. Just eat it. And so now it got to the point where I have to make, matzo balls like huge. And
Okay, so I have to ask the important question. Sinkers or swimmers? Sinkers or floaters?
Oh man. They float. They're huge though.
No, the right answer is sinkers.
That's a conversation
This is
that really needs more context.
never to be resolved argument. Yeah.
We have a feature on ConTinual called Food Fight. I am going to add that to the list.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, no.
Because that's a major fight.
Yes, I will. I will tell Jeannie Adams that we have to add sinkers or swimmers to the list.
Yes.
And preface it with matzo balls or matzo ball soup. Sinkers or swimmers. Yes. Okay. Jaym, you're always feeding the multitudes. What are you doing this year? How are you adapting this comfort? This gift of comfort food to circumstances where we cannot gather in the numbers we'd like.
I'm actually not entirely sure. It may be something where I cook and then people pick food up. It might be, we have some friends that we did a birthday party for one of my adopted siblings earlier this year where they opened up their garage and everyone basically sat in the driveway and the food was, in the garage. So depending on the weather, there may be a chance that we could do that. At the same time, I don't know. I might just take this year kind of off, but it's a little frustrating because I actually made a note to myself in like December of last year that I wanted to do a New Mexico style holiday. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Christmas or Thanksgiving, but I had all these plans of because I love making tamales. I was going to make homemade tamales and really break into the green chilies and all these things. So I kind of have to see where we're going to go. And I'm not really sure yet. So.
Okay.
but I usually do 2 Thanksgivings and like 3 Christmases. So this year's going to be really weird.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Speaking of multiples, Jim, the 15 turkeys, the smoked hams, the side of pig. How are you going to scale all that down, or are you? And
Well,
how is this? How are you going to? What recommendations would you have for
well, I mean,
getting the comfort
so
in?
this year it's kind of I don't know if I'm gonna be doing it because I mean normally that is I cook all of that and I deliver it, or they come by and pick it up, one or the other. So, and a lot of the folks I've been talking to either don't have people coming to town, don't all the usual stuff just isn't.
Hmm.
And so I'm not entirely sure. That's one of those things that we got to start figuring out here. And I will probably wind up doing it for a few friends of mine because it's all the same usual stuff. But I don't know yet. And so normally we do Thanksgiving with my wife's family, and there's been stuff there this year too. And it's like, maybe we'll just go hide on the mountain, and I'm going to go do, mustard curry turkey and,
Hey, it could be a very interesting thing. I mean,
Oh, it
turkey
works
has
really well.
you've already tried it.
Oh, I've done it before. Yeah. You
You'll have,
marinate the turkey in mustard curry, and then you do a slow smoke on it. Yeah.
whoa, that sounds awesome. Nikki, you could have your husband try it. You got to change recipes.
He will eat anything. I swear to you. He is food adventurer. It's wonderful.
What you do is you take the turkey legs and you make them like dragon wings.
Oh, we need a whole different program on that technique there. You have just signed up for holiday hacks, Jim.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm not above ordering people around, even though I can't. Laura Ann, how are you going to adapt your holiday and your
Honestly,
holiday
I
comfort?
don't know. My entire family is on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. And as I mentioned before, I missed last year because of serious illness. And I haven't even really thought about it because I don't know. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. It's just very weird not to be with my family. And it doesn't feel real to me if I'm not with my family. So possibly getting together with 1 or 2 friends who are in my kind of pod, if you will. Yeah, I don't know. It may be turkey for one, which is like the most depressing thing in the world. So maybe not.
Look, I'll feed you. You know this.
Yeah. You're not,
but yeah,
you're
no, I probably will make my mom's pecan pie because that to me is an important part of the holiday. And yeah, and basically just waiting for next year. It's really what it comes down to. Any celebration we have right now, and I am hoping that we will all be in a mood to celebrate, is still going to be overshadowed with the reality of what 2020 is, which is that we aren't able to be with our families. We aren't able to travel safely. I haven't seen my family in a year and a half now. And it's just going to bring that even more to light. So it's kind of tough.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring everything into a downer there.
No. It basically we have to recognize where we are and deal with that and go forward. And I think that
I intend to make a lot of mashed potatoes because carbs solve everything.
I'm with that. And pecan pie is some of the best carbs, and it gives you protein. Let me just tell you, those pecans have high protein, and they have a lot of calcium, so it's good for you. Damn it.
It's a health food.
It is a
Yes.
health food. Yes, I believe it is a health food.
I feel like I found my people here because I'm really good at justifying desserts being full meals, and my partner just really does not appreciate that, and he's walking behind me right now, which makes this even better.
I'm judging him. I am judging.
Yes.
Tell him he's
Judging.
wrong. No, I'll
Yes.
tell him he's wrong. You're wrong.
I don't eat pecan pie, but I do make a maple pecan popcorn that people say is like crack. And I'm like, I don't know if that's polite, but okay, I'll take it, whatever.
Oh, okay, no. If you need crack, different holiday, but we make a matzo crack.
Ooh, is it with
Which is
the...
basically chocolate and caramel and matzah, and oh my God, this stuff is addictive. I will send you the recipe.
Well, the stuff that mom, because I can't do chocolate, which, was, absolute sin to my mother.
Yeah.
But she would make this stuff. She found this recipe of this stuff that was called Sex in a Pan. And it was layers of butterscotch pudding. It was a graham cracker crust, layers of butterscotch pudding, fresh real whipped cream, crumbled pecans, all this other stuff that you just sort of put in this little... And I haven't made it in a very long time. And because,
You're having a moment.
it's a diabetic crush, but
Yep.
Gonna
be at 500.
Yeah.
Sweating.
That's a worth it moment.
Yeah, there's some things that are absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth
But
it.
listen, where we are, the nights are long, it's dark, it's cold, so we put on some weight.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
night we did one of
Little.
we did one last night. We did a visit with a couple of friends for the second time. We did socially distant drinks and dessert. And so I made a Savioni pie, which was a base of the mascarpone with crushed raspberries and stuff in it. I did a little bit of a raspberry reduction to go in between it. I did a Marsala custard in between, and then fresh whipped cream on top, almond whipped cream on top with, some raspberries and stuff like that. And, it was like a piece that big was it weighed 12 pounds, but
I'm gonna need to have one of those delivered to me, please.
Yes.
That is delicious.
I
My
think that
thing
the weight...
is I make miniature cheesecakes with raspberry
Ooh.
coulis on top.
Yes.
And yeah, again, they're like this big, and you have one, and you're kind of like, and I'm gonna sit on the sofa now for a while.
I think that the thing we need to do to deal with 2020 is we all need to basically have this exchange of carbohydrates between everybody on this panel and everybody at home with one of their friends. Pick a carb and send it off to the world so that we can share the love of cooking and of holidays with each other, even though
we need to do
we're
a
far.
continual cookbook, and we'll just call it Share Carb.
Well, I
I think
posted a
that we
few
have just
recipes
come up
online.
with- I think we've just come up with an idea that we basically need to have posted in time for Hanukkah or Christmas, because I don't think we can get it together before then. But I think, Jim, you've just signed yourself on as editor.
Well, there's only one problem here. I don't really use recipes.
Same. That's my problem. I can tell you what goes into it probably, but I don't know. Even baking, I'm bad at using recipes.
Well, I think you could still put it together somehow.
Oh yeah, I can tell you what theoretically goes in it. That doesn't mean how it gets made this time versus that time, but I can.
I actually had somebody follow me around the kitchen once, writing down what I did,
Oh, that's weird.
so that
But
we'd
again,
have a
it's-
recipe for something.
It's
Oh.
grandma cooking. You put things in a pot, you have a list of ingredients and some handwritten notes, and the rest is...
And the rest,
No.
if you've got a nose, a dear friend of mine is a writer, and she only learned 5 years ago that if it smells good, it probably hasn't gone bad.
Sounds like my grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really sad, yes. And she's still a better cook than my mother. But anyway, this has been so much fun, and I thank you all for showing up. And I wish we had more time, but I do want to ask before we go around, where can people find you as writers on the net, even if they can't necessarily find your wonderful food? Jim?
You can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentials.net, and of course, I guess at ConTinual, usually behind the scenes.
Okay. Nikki?
Oh, me. Well, you can find me on nikkiwoolfolk.com for books, and also belmontchocolates.com, because I actually have free recipes there, including the maple pecan popcorn one. So I've also got I've got a cherry cheesecake brownie thing, like this long ass name came from one of the books I wrote, and I think that it would probably go down with like a favorite carb of people's. So
Oh, that sounds good. And do you sell your marshmallows there?
I have a recipe on how you can eat those marshmallows, but the ones that I do sell are vegan marshmallows. Those are trickier to make. So
Oh, that sounds good too, really.
and I also make chocolates, which I sell. That's a whole different story. I was airbrushing them today, so that's a whole different.
Oh, do you ship?
I do. My company, I ship to 48 states. Sorry,
Give us
Hawaii.
the URL.
Yes.
I will make sure to pass that on. So Belmont Chocolates. So
Okay, good. And Jaym, where can the universe find you on the web for your writing and, anything else you want to promote?
I mean, theoretically, I have a website. I'm just so bad about keeping it updated. But just jaymgates.com has most of the projects that I've worked on. I do have a short story collection that was put out by Falstaff a few years ago called The Shattered Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, let me pronounce that a little more clearly. Shattered Queen. I haven't actually been drinking, which is kind of sad. But anyways, so that's the best place to find me. And then as far as food goes, just if you're local to me, I probably already feed you. So
what a lovely thought. And Laura Ann, where can folks find you and all
the
of your
website
projects?
is lauraannegilman.net. Pretty easy to remember. Social media, I'm either L.A. Gilman or Laura Ann Gilman.
Mm-hmm.
Again, easy to find. I try to make it simple. Yeah, it's and for those who are looking to support a Patreon, I have one. Again, Laura Ann Gilman. Just look for it.
Okay.
I do I do recipes once a month on the Patreon also. There, I made it relevant to the
panel. You do. So
dragging it back to topic.
yes, I love it.
We're all, it's all about the comfort. It's all about the food. It's all about the holidays and the good friends and the family of both blood and heart. So I thank you all for being here. And I thank you out in internet land for joining us here today. If you like what you've seen, please like, share, follow, and subscribe, and leave a review. Thank you and happy holidays.